China is practicing dogfighting with the satellite as it ramps up space capabilities. U.S. Space Force Vice Chief of Space Operations General Michael Guettilain testifies before the Senate Armed Services Committee on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. on March 12, 2025. Hong Kong CNN, China is practicing dogfighting satellite as part of its expanding capabilities in space, according to the United States Space Force, which warned that Washington's key rivals are closing to technology gap as space becomes increasingly critical to security on Earth. The Space Force observed 5 different objects in space maneuvering in and out and around each other in synchronicity and in control. Its Vice Chief of Space Operations General Michael A. Guettilain said Tuesday at the Defense Conference, "That's what we call the dogfighting in space. We are practicing techniques and procedures to do on-orbit space operations from one satellite to another," Guettilain said, using a term that typically refers to close range and area combat between fighter jets. Guettilain referred to the U.S. near peers as practicing these on-orbit maneuvers during remarks at the McAleese Defense Programs Conference in Arlington, Virginia. A U.S. Space Force spokesperson later confirmed to CNN that Guettilain was referring to operations conducted by China, which are observed via commercially available information. While the purpose of each such operations was not clear, and some experts questioned the use of the term, Guettilain's comment come as analysts say a growing number of countries, including China, have sought to develop this counter-space technologies. Such capabilities could enable a country to destroy or disable satellites, potentially allowing them to interrupt a rival military's communications or operations like launching and detecting missiles. Such interference could also wreak havoc on global navigation systems used for everything from banking and cargo shipping to ambulance dispatch. The U.S. has been closely watching China's rapid rise as a space power in recent decades, not only through its ambitious lunar and deep space exploration programs, but also what analysts describe as its deepening counter-space capabilities. In response to a question about China and Russia, Guettilain said they had developed exquisite capabilities. He cited the deployment of jammers to disrupt satellite signals, the ability to dazzle intelligence surveillance and reconnaissance satellites with lasers, as well as maneuvers involving grappling with a satellite and towing it to the different orbit. This is the most complex and challenging strategic environment that we have seen in a long time, if not ever, Guettilain said, adding that the force needs the capabilities to deter and, if necessary, defeat aggression to guarantee that the advantage is in our favor into the future. There used to be a capability gap between us and our near peers, mainly driven by the technological advancement of the United States. That capability gap has significantly narrowed, he said. The dogfighting incidents referenced by the Guettilain involved a series of Chinese satellite maneuvers in 2024 in low Earth orbit involving 3 Xi'an-24C experimental satellite and 2 Chinese experimental space orbit, Shijian-6 05AB, a Space Force spokesperson said. Beijing has released little public information about its experimental satellite and such operations. The country included safeguarding its security interest in outer space. Among its national defense goals in 2019 white paper, but has long said it stands for the peaceful use of outer space and opposes the arms race there. CNN has reached out to China's Ministry of Defense and State Administration of Science, Technology, and Industry for national defense for comment. Dogfighting in space. Given the physical dynamics in space, the maneuvers described by Gaetlin as dogfighting would look very different from those in the air between fighter jets. In this case, involving satellites maneuvering around one another using propellant, experts say. Analysts have long been closely monitoring interactions between satellites and other objects in space, typically referred to as the landi- landageables and the proximity operations. These maneuvers can be used for peaceful operations like satellite maintenance or clearing debris, but could also allow the countries to interfere with the adversary's asset. Close maneuvering around other satellites could suggest the development of the counter space weapon, because getting close to another satellite means you could potentially grab it, launch a net or projectile at it, or use the energy weapon like a laser or jammer, said Clayton Swope, deputy director of the Aerospace Security Project at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in think tank in Washington. But getting close to another satellite might also suggest other purposes, like in space servicing or refueling. It could also be one satellite trying to take a picture of the other one. He said, adding that China is launching a more and more satellites that demonstrates the ability to conduct sophisticated maneuvers. We don't really know for sure, at least not publicly, what any of these satellites are up to, but some are probably doing surveillance and also testing out new space technologies that could be used as counter space weapons, so Swope added. There's no confirmed public evidence of China using counter-space capabilities against any military target, the independent US-based Secure World Foundation said in an annual report on countries' counter-space capabilities like last year. China has undertaken similar rendezvous and proximity operations to those referenced by the Great Lane in the past. But this incident appears to have involved more satellites than others. Victoria Sampson, SWF's the chief director of space security and stability, told CNN. Russia and the US are also known to conduct proximity operations to their own and other satellites, she added. It's hard to say if this Chinese capability is something that the US doesn't have, since we are learning about it from US commercial SSA, Space Situational Awareness companies, who are generally reluctant to discuss what US satellites are up to, she said, referring to China's operations as dogfighting in space is not helpful because it automatically ascribed the hostile intention to activities that frankly the US also undertakes, Sampson added. Currently, the US doesn't have acknowledged the operational program to target the satellite from within orbit using other satellites or spacecraft, though it could likely quickly field one in the future, according to SWF's annual report. That's because the US has done extensive non-offensive testing of technologies to approach and rendezvous with satellites, including close approach of its own military satellite and several Russian and Chinese military satellites, the foundation said.